Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Our South African judge, Mabel is facing public anger over a comment she purportedly made on social media, saying rape was part of the culture for black men. The country has been hit by a spate of racism rows in recent months triggered by comments on social media. The government has responded by saying that it intends to toughen anti-racism laws. But the latest row involving the judges raised many uncomfortable questions, top on the list being how many other judges harbor such apparently prejudiced views, despite the fact that they are supposed to see all people as equal before the law. Now, many South Africans on social media are calling for her to be sacked, and legal experts say that her comments could open the way for convicted black people to appeal against her rulings. Racism on social media is becoming a common feature in South Africa, and some analysts say the time for a frank conversation about how to tackle the problem has indeed come. Now, a group of Nigerians under the aegis of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo South Africa has staged a protest at the Nigerian High Commission in Pretoria for what they described as wanton killing of the Igbos by cattle herdsmen. They handed over a memorandum of protest to the acting High Commissioner, Ambassador Martin Cobhams, for onward transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari. I have with us, joining us from Johannesburg, the Johannesburg Bureau Chief for Channels Television, Betty Dibia, who's been covering the story today. Betty, thanks for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you so much.
Let's get more about what happened today, why the Nigerians are protesting, why they feel the need to protest at the Nigerian High Commission in South Africa.
Well, I guess that's the platform that they have to register their displeasure over the situation. The clashes, most of the people who came there, if not all, are from the eastern part of the country, and they believe that their people back home must be protected. We have reports of the clashes in the eastern part of the country between some communities and those who are supposedly cattle herdsmen. So this is the main reason why they came to the High Commission to register their protest. They handed over a memorandum of protest to the acting High Commissioner, Ambassador Cobham, who agreed to send the letter to the right quarters, that is the president, at the right time. And they also, so to give credit, some of them said it goes beyond the Igbos as well, because there's some other parts of the country where there have been clashes recorded. But that's the main reason why they came to present the protest. They actually wanted to sit inside the embassy for a sit-down protest, but that wasn't allowed. So it got a bit rowdy. We had a lot of policemen, but everything, at the end of the day, they had to pick a few people, some of their leaders, who now came inside within the gates of the High Commission to sit down on the floor and read their protest memorandum and then hand the letter to the High Commissioner.
Did they get the sort of response that they wanted to from the authorities?
Well, I would say they did. The High Commissioner, the acting High Commissioner, the Defense Attaché, and some of the top officials, the Chief Consular Officer as well, they all went outside to meet them, to listen to them, receive their letters, but they insisted on coming inside. And the High Commissioner said, for security reasons, this is not allowed. And you have some of them wearing the regalia and carrying banners of Biafra, saying Nigeria is a failed state and down with Nigeria. But some of them, so they were asked to just elect people, pick people, some of your leaders who will come in to the High Commission to present your letter or say what you have to say. So at that point, there was a lot of argument. They couldn't pick a leader. So that went on for over an hour. Later on, because there are about 20 organizations under this banner. So some of the leaders of the individual organizations, were now picked, finally, really rowdy session to come in, and they sat on the floor within the gates of the High Commission, read everything. The Secretary General of the Ohanaeze Ndigbo read the protest letter, after which they now handed a copy to the High Commission for them to hand on to the President. But that was basically it today.
Betsy, it seems like some of these groups you mentioned Biafra, it seems like they wanted to take advantage of this So how are the authorities, the Nigerian authorities in South Africa, helping people to understand that this is not, that sort of, this has nothing really to do with Biafra or any other, issues. This is just what it is. How are they helping to separate the issues for people, Nigerians who live in South Africa?
I know at a point one of the speakers tried to talk about Biafra issues and all that, and the High Commissioner whispered to him that, like, this is the Nigerian High Commission, and some of them kept on speaking outside. But the group, the other leaders of the group had to tell them, look, we must stay focused on the reason why we're here. We can't let, some were grumbling on the side. Now the Biafra people are trying to hijack this situation, but they called them to order, and they were able to articulate the reason why they came and pass that on. But part of what they read, part of the protest letter the Secretary General read, was towards the end, he said, look, if for any reason the Igbos will not be allowed to play freely in the country and be themselves, they should be peacefully allowed to exit the nation. That's part of the letter that they presented today to the High Commission. But the basic focus was the issue of security of all people in the country.
Betty, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Appreciate your reporting, and we know that you'll keep an eye on this story as it develops.
Thank you.
Channelstv Bureau, Johannesburg Bureau Chief Betty Dibia from South Africa. Now, Kenyan police fired tear gas and water cannon today at stone-throwing protesters in Nairobi who had gathered to demand a body supervising next year's elections resign. The presidential and parliamentary polls are more than a year away, but politicians are already lining up for what could be a bruising battle in a nation where violence erupted after the 2007 vote and the opposition disputed the 2013 results. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered near the university and the offices of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The opposition have accused the IEBC of bias in favor of the government, demanding it be disbanded. The IEBC has dismissed the charges and said its members will stay on. Meanwhile, Mali's security forces said they have arrested a senior member of the Islamist militant group Ansar Dini, who trafficked weapons for attacks in Mali and over the border in Burkina Faso. Yakuba Toure, suspected of supplying the arms and grenades and ammunition used in an attack near Burkina Faso's second largest city, Bobo Dioulasso, in October, that killed at least 3 gendarmes. Mali's head of the security forces said that Mali, Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire have all been targeted by Islamist attacks, blamed on militant networks that extend beyond national borders. The group in question, Ansar Dini, has claimed numerous strikes in Mali against military and UN targets, including a suicide and rocket attack on a UN base that killed 6 peacekeepers in February. The country's state security said Toure, who was arrested on the outskirts of Bamako last Thursday, had joined Islamist groups in northern Mali in 2010, where he received military weapons training and became the main arms supplier for militants operating in the south. Still ahead on Network Africa. It's all a race for a good cause in Egypt. Kids making it their own cause this time. Do join us again.